7 a.m., Kim Jong-un demanded combat readiness as he inspected military detachments on Jangjae and Mu islets near North Korea's border with South Korea. The islets, located just miles from the South Korean island of Yeongpyeong, are known to be home to multiple rocket launchers and artillery pieces. A statement from North Korea's state-run KCNA said that Kim acquainted and examined the plan for fire strike of the newly organized forces at the objects of the enemy. Meanwhile, it has emerged that Donald Trump could brand North Korea state sponsors of terrorism within the next 90 days as part of a new bill placing harsh sanctions on the hermit nation. The House of Representatives voted 419-1 to force the issue, which would also place heavy sanctions on North Korea's shipping industry as well as those who employ North Korean slave labor abroad. Real threats demand real responses, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Ed Royce said. This bill gives the administration a powerful tool to cut off North Korea's funding by going after those who do business with the regime. 12 p.m. BST. North Korea has claimed that the CIA are plotting to kill Kim Jong-un in a chemical attack. The North Korean regime has threatened a counter-terrorist attack against U.S. and South Korean forces in retaliation for the alleged attack. According to reports, a terrorist group supported by the CIA crossed the border before trying to kill the dictator with biochemical substances. North Korea's state-controlled KCNA news agency said, the heinous terrorist criminal group was discovered which infiltrated the DPRK after careful preparations. 2 p.m. BST, Kim Jong-un has been spotted inspecting rocket launchers on two islets just miles from South Korea. New photographs show the desperate leader peering menacingly through binoculars towards South Korea while flanked by soldiers. The images, published in the nation's state newspaper Rodong Sinmun, show Kim smiling as soldiers and their family members living at the Hero Defense Detachment on Mu Islet hail his arrival. He is also seen inspecting a large missile launcher and talking to military personnel inside a gun shelter. 5 p.m. The Pentagon is looking into potential connections between the North Korean hermit state and the Islamic Republic of Iran. U.S. defense officials fear the two countries have been sharing information on their rogue missiles for years. An Iranian ballistic missile test in late January was supposedly based on North Korean designs, according to the Pentagon. Last summer, Iran has also launched a missile similar in design to Kim Jong-un's Musudan missile, one of the country's most successful weapons. 8 p.m., the former director of the Strategic Defense Initiative Defense Program, Henry Cooper, claims North Korea and Iran could place an armed satellite in orbit. Both nations could deliver an EMP attack on the United States by simply detonating a nuclear weapon carried by one of their satellites as it passes over the United States, Mr. Cooper stated at a Senate committee yesterday. The communist state has already successfully launched a satellite in the past, and an EMP weapon would not require any specific guidance technology. EMP weapons target infrastructure by creating an energy surge that disables electronic devices. I believe we have had clear warning of the nature of this threat for years, and are collectively continuing to ignore and or take ineffective countermeasures to deal with it, Mr. Cooper added. We are essentially defenseless against this plausible threat. North Korea has claimed that the CIA are plotting to kill their leader Kim Jong-un in a chemical attack amid soaring tensions between the country and the United States. North Korea has claimed that the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, are plotting to kill their leader with biochemical substances. The North Korean regime has threatened a counter-terrorist attack against U.S. and South Korean forces in retaliation for the alleged attack. According to reports, a terrorist group supported by the CIA crossed the border before trying to kill the dictator. North Korea has claimed that the aim was to kill Mr. Jong-un during a public event in Pyongyang. The state-controlled KCNA news agency said, the heinous terrorist criminal group was discovered which infiltrated the DPRK after careful preparations. According to the report, a North Korean citizen was involved in the plot using biochemical substances including radioactive substance and nano-poisonous substance to kill off the leader. The report said the plot was uncovered and accused members of the CIA of working with North Korean citizens to carry out state-sponsored terrorism. The North Korean Security Ministry said in a statement, "We will ferret out and mercilessly destroy to the last one the terrorists of the US CIA." The country's leader Kim Jong-un has threatened to launch a ballistic missile at any time, which could strike the United States. This week, Mr. Jong-un said he was considering to strike South Korea when he visited border military bases. World War III fears continue to be heightened as Kim Jong-un has threatened to carry out a sixth nuclear test. It is not known how the government found out about the plot or what happened to the alleged spy. The North Korean regime is suspected of being involved in the death of the leader's half-brother Kim Jong-nam, who was poisoned with a nerve agent in Kuala Lumpur airport in February. Donald Trump must report to Congress in the next 90 days to confirm if North Korea will be determined a state sponsor of terrorism. The House of Representatives voted 419-1 to force the issue as part of a bill placing harsh sanctions on the Hermit Kingdom and its tyrannical dictator Kim Jong-un. The heavy sanctions would target the secret of state's shipping industry, as well as those who employ North Korean slave labor abroad. Tens of thousands of North Koreans are forced to work in slave-like conditions in countries including Russia and China on behalf of the Kim regime, generating £1.5 billion by sidestepping UN sanctions. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Ed Royce said, "This shows the world that Congress stands ready to help the administration work with our allies and others to counter North Korea's belligerent behavior." It follows the North Korean involvement in the assassination of Kim Jong-un's half-brother Kim Jong-nam, who was poisoned at Kuala Lumpur airport after seeking refuge in the Chinese territory of Macau. Meanwhile, the tiny state's nuclear testing has led to fears of all-out war breaking out on the Korean peninsula, with Kim Jong-un unveiling threat after threat against the United States and its allies. Kim Jong-un's domain is currently surrounded by some of the world's strongest armies, with China, Russia and the US scrambling troops to the region. The warmongering nation has vowed to wipe the US off the face of the earth after claiming Donald Trump has moved chemical weapons to the North Korean border as part of his wild ambition to dominate the world. A government spokesman claimed Trump had moved the military equipment into South Korea in a bid to press ahead with the Jupiter Plan, a scenario for biochemical war against the North. He added, "The U.S. has fully revealed its criminal scenario to make no scruple of using biochemical weapons to exterminate the Korean nation in order to realize its wild ambition for dominating the world." Recently, the U.S. is busy floating the wild rumor about the threat from biochemical weapons of the DPRK North Korea. Lurking behind this is its sinister design to secure a pretext for provoking a biochemical war against the DPRK. Kim Jong-un ready to strike, North Korea demands combat readiness amid WW3 fears. Kim Jong-un has pushed the world one step closer to the brink of nuclear war after he vowed to strike South Korea on a visit to a military base. The chubby dictator took a jaunt to a number of military units on Jangjae-en-mu islets located near South Korea's frontline Yeolongpyeong Island, just miles from the North Korea border. And he was snapped surveying a raft of heavy weapons, including multiple rocket launchers and artillery pieces. A statement from North Korea's state-run media, KCNA, said Kim acquainted and examined the plan for fire strike of the newly organized forces at the objects of the enemy. South Korea's Yonhap news agency added that the North Korean leader was considering a plan to strike South Korea. The news agency reported, he said that the KPA elite artillery group defending the southwestern front should keep highly alert to break the backbone of the enemy once ordered. He was greatly satisfied with the combat readiness and the soldiers living of the two defense detachments, he said, adding he confirmed that all the combat positions are fully ready for combat and to go into action. The visit comes almost 7 years after North Korea shelled Yeolongpyeong Island in November 2010, which killed 4 in the firefight including 2 civilians. The attack was the first clash between the two nations since the 1950-53 Korean War. The inspection also comes after satellite images appeared to show a series of North Korean military bases on man-made islands in the Yellow Sea. The startling pictures seemingly show how the former scrubland areas have been extensively developed and now boast missile launch pads or underground silos, observation areas and wide roads capable to carrying missile-bearing trucks. But preparations for a deadly clash across the Korean peninsula have been mirrored by Seoul. South Korea too has been out on military inspections close to the border, as its Marine Corps commander assessed troops on Thursday. Any provocations by North Korea, he said, will be retaliated against. The tensions between North Korea and the South have only been exacerbated in recent months, after Donald Trump warned Kim Jong-un against carrying out any more missile tests. But the despot failed to heed the caution, instead ramping up his nuclear program and issuing threatening comments to the West. North Korea tension: Russia accuses USA of declaration of war and warns of response. The chaos in North Korea has now thrown Russia and the USA against each other after the Kremlin accused Donald Trump of making a declaration of war. America's heavy-handed approach to Kim Jong-un's saber-rattling has raised hackles in Russia, who see the U.S. actions on the peninsula as a direct threat. Several sources within Vladimir Putin's government have hit out at the U.S. over its actions on the Korean peninsula. Konstantin Kosarkov of the Committee for International Relations said an American bill calling for the enforcement of sanctions using Russian ports breaks international law. He said, the realization of this bill includes a proposed force scenario in which the U.S. Navy would conduct compulsory inspections of all ships. Such a scenario is simply unthinkable because it means a declaration of war. Franz Klintsevich of the State Duma Committee for Defense and Security said it showed America were trying to police the globe. He said, what immediately draws attention is the list of nations where U.S. congressmen want to have special control over seaports. These are Russia, China, Iran and Syria. The United States is again trying to expand its jurisdiction all over the globe. It is as if they were telling Russia, China, Iran and Syria that these nations are suspects in crime, which is nonsense, according to international law. And Andrei Krasov, a member of the same committee, warned America would receive a suitable response if they attempted to put their proposal into practice. He said, the U.S. administration will receive a symmetrical adequate response to any unfriendly steps toward Russia and our allies. In any case, no U.S. ship will enter our waters. It comes after North Korea attempted to start World War III by securing the support of 10 other Asian nations in Kim's fight against America. A bizarre letter sent to the countries warned of a nuclear holocaust across the continent if North Korea did not receive its requested support. As fighter jets were scrambled after a pair of Russian bombers approached the American border in an apparent show of force this morning. The American warplanes were mobilized when Vladimir Putin's jets approached the U.S. state of Alaska earlier today. 2 Russian Tu-95 long-range bombers sparked alarm when they entered Alaska's air defense zone, the 5th time they have done so since last month. They were intercepted by 2 U.S. Air Force F-22 stealth fighter jets and escorted away from the region. U.S. officials said Russia's bombers were unarmed and remained in international airspace throughout the incident. It comes just one day after Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin spoke by phone, promising to work together to solve conflicts in North Korea and the Middle East. A White House spokesperson said the chat was a good one, while Kremlin officials said it was businesslike and constructive. These appeared to have been nothing but empty words, however, followed as they were just hours later by this provocative move. This latest incident will now set alarm bells ringing from Donald Trump's White House to Westminster, which has also repeatedly condemned aggressive actions by Russian jets. Earlier this year RAF Typhoons were mobilized to intercept 2 Russian bombers heading towards UK airspace. The Russian jets attracted RAF attention during the incident on February 9 when they flew between the Faroe Islands and the Shetland Islands, outside of UK airspace but within the country's area of interest. The jets then buzzed the west coast of Ireland before fleeing into the Bay of Biscay, setting alarm bells ringing in Paris and Madrid. At this stage Spain and France's air forces temporarily took over the interception before the Russian jets turned around and traveled back through the UK's area of interest to Russia.